Welcome back to Yev's Builds, and in this episode we're going to be replacing my E39 M5's brake lines, okay? Before we get going with this video, I just want to say a quick but huge thank you to Dave from Turner Motorsports. This dude knew that my brake lines are bad and I wanted to replace them, and he hooked me up and sent these out to me from Turner, obviously. Dude, these are some top quality brake lines, man. They're sweet. They're steel braided and they're silicone covered. They look sweet. They're built sweet. These are some top quality brake lines, and I just want to say a huge thank you to these guys. They're just as passionate about these cars just like we are, dude. So that's tight. Appreciate it. So let's get going with the video, man. So for this job, it's pretty straightforward. We're going to be removing and replacing all the lines first before we get to the bleeding procedure. We'll start with the rear just because it's the furthest away, and it doesn't honestly really matter where you start. But what you want to do is you want to remove this side of the line first. It's sitting on a little grommet, a little stop right here. That's going to be a little 11 millimeter, and that's going to be a 14 millimeter. You remove those, you unscrew them, and then you get to this one, and you remove the one from the caliper itself. When we're going to be putting it back on, we're going to put the one on the caliper first, and then we're going to be tightening it over there. If you spill some, be prepared. It's going to be a little messy, but you have to lose some before you gain some. When you're doing this job, always keep an eye out on your brake reservoir. It's located right here in the E39 M5s. It's located right here under the air box. You remove that, unscrew the cap, and keep an eye out on the level, because if you get too low on fluid, it's just going to be really annoying to bleed the system, even more annoying than it really is already. So just keep an eye out. Always keep adding fluid when you're removing each line. Just keep an eye out, and we're just going to go from there. So the best way to do this is you unscrew it, have the second line ready and prepared to be screwed back in. That way you just lose as least amount of fluid as possible, and you're going to be good to go. So you take your 11 mil, you take your 14 mil, and you start unscrewing it just like that. Be prepared, because it's going to be quite a messy job. But once that's removed, you get down to here, and it's also 14 mil, and you start unscrewing that. Remember to keep an eye out on that reservoir. This is a perfect time to do a brake flush if you're doing this. I'm not going to do it just because I literally bled my brakes and filled it up with new fluid less than 100 miles ago, until I realized that I'm actually bleeding from one of the lines. So get your new line in, start threading it in like so. Don't strip it, so be real careful. Just tighten it enough to where it's not going to be leaking anymore. And you get back with this one and start tightening this one away, just like that. And one of the rears is completely done. When you're doing the second rear, it's identical. The entire procedure is exactly the same, as well as the fronts. They're all very easy and simple. The only thing that's going to be a little bit confusing is the bleeding procedure, but you'll get the hang of it. It's quite simple. Moving on. And for the front brake lines, it's literally the exact same thing, except the sizes of the wrenches are a little bit different. This little bottom guy right here, it's an 11, so that one stays the same. But then this top one is a 17 mil. So you remove it, same sort of idea, start untightening it and get going with it. After a lot of finessing around and moving it around, you get that top part off, and then get to the bottom right there, right at the caliper. That's a 14 mil, and you unscrew that little guy. Old line pops off pretty easily, and you get back with it with the new line, and you screw it back in, starting from the caliper. Like that, don't over tighten it. And you repeat the entire process again, dude. You see how the front one has like these little notches, little grooves in it? That's purposely made for it to sit straight into this little bracket. It kind of clips in almost. There's like a little special area for it. You do the exact same thing on the other front side, and we're almost done. Almost done. Keep an eye out on that reservoir, okay? I know throughout this entire video you've been seeing these little lines right here, right? Unfortunately, I'm not going to be replacing them quite yet, and not in this video. So those two little ones, they go towards the ABS module itself. For me to change these lines, the proper way to change them, you're supposed to have some sort of special software to bleed the ABS unit. I do not have the software, so for now, they seem to be super dry, and I'm just not gonna touch these until maybe later on, maybe until I get the software for, you know, other stuff. I don't know, but that's, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, please, but from what I understand, Those lines aren't supposed to be replaced, which is these, until you have a software to bleed the ABS unit. Once you replace all 4 lines, 1 on each wheel, once you replace them, the car is ready to be bled. The correct way to do this is, you see where the reservoir is? It's on the driver's side left, right? It's on the left. You start bleeding the system from the farthest wheel from the reservoir, which in this case, if you're in America and it's a left-hand drive vehicle, the furthest wheel from the reservoir is going to be the far right rear wheel. And then we're going to be moving on to this one, and then to this front right, and then the front left. The proper way to bleed this entire system is you come up to the caliper, the one that's furthest away from the reservoir. You grab a 9mm open-end wrench. If you're not going to be replacing the brake fluid, like I'm not in my case, since this has been replaced not too long ago, I'm going to be reusing this if it's clean. You hook up a hose like this, and you have it connected to your .4 fluid. When I say so, somebody is going to be pumping up the brakes, pushing them in, pushing it out until they get a good 5, 6, 7 pumps in. And then when I tell them to stop, they're going to hold the brake. They're going to keep holding it, pushing it on it. I'm going to release this 9mm nut. That way, a bunch of bubbles are going to be coming out, and once it's going to be pure fluid and not bubbles, you tighten it up. You have somebody in the driver's seat pump up the brakes again, and you keep doing this exact same procedure until every single time you release this nut, no air bubbles are coming out, but only fluid. This entire time, you should always keep in mind that your brake reservoir should always be full of fluid, and never let it go dry, because if it goes dry, yeah, you're just going to cause more air bubbles to go into the entire system, and that's not good. Start pumping those brakes, dude. Just give it a bunch of good pumps. All right, now hold it. Keep holding it. Now I come up to this, grab your 9mm, and you release this little guy. See all those air bubbles? That's not good. And then it stops, right? Because there's no more pressure. So you lock it up again. Dennis, keep pumping. All right, stop. Now you release this again. See, more air bubbles. Lock it up because there's no more pressure. You got to build up that pressure again. Dennis, keep going. Hold it. Release. No more air bubbles, but you keep doing this until you are certain that there's no more air bubbles in this entire line. You keep this process going. You start with this right rear, go to the left rear, go to the front right, and then end it off with the driver's left. Again, keep in mind, check on your reservoir, make sure it does not go dry because you're going to ruin the entire process. Once you bleed the entire system and every single corner has absolutely 0 bubbles coming out for a while, you know, don't just turn them off as soon as the first time you see no bubbles coming out. Keep doing it until there's literally consistently no more bubbles and your brake pedal feels absolutely solid. And then you go up and start her, dude. That's it, dude. That is it. If she's stopping good, then you know you did your job right. We're good. Yeah, if your brakes are good, I mean, then we're good in this, dude, we're solid.
That looked like a Karen so bad.
That was a Karen. She's already calling the police. If you don't know, we recently did a timing job on this car. We did the timing chains. So there's stuff moving. I'm just saying there's a lot of things coming. So make sure to like and subscribe. If you don't know, I'm doing a V10 swap into an E46 M3 later. That's in the process. Dude, there's just a lot of things coming. That's all I gotta say. Appreciate you guys. Subscribe, like, and peace.